All right. Today we were going to look at some Robert Crumb artwork. It's so difficult when you start a channel because you go, I don't really know exactly what I want my channel to be. I don't know if I want it to cover art, comic books. I think Robert Crumb is one of those people that, he did do comics and he does a lot of art, so it makes total sense. Why would I not do Robert Crumb? Famous underground artist, probably the most famous underground artist of all time, which must be pretty amazing when you think about it. Because, there was probably a ton of underground artists that you and I don't even know about. But Robert Crumb kind of turned the underground into mainstream, which is pretty cool if you think about it. His work is pretty interesting because it has a lot of, cross-hatching and a lot of interesting line usage, and I enjoy his figures as well. He draws very weird figures. I'm sure he could probably draw like a fine artist. I think I've actually seen pieces where he draws very fine artist art-like. But he has this very distinctive style. When you look at Crumb, you go, that's definitely Crumb for sure. This is a book I picked up, a Taschen book. By the way, I just want to say Taschen makes some of the best art books out there. I only have a couple of them. I have this one, I have Leonardo da Vinci one, and a Michelangelo one, but they make a ton of them. They have like Geiger books, and they have an entire series of Crumb. I only got the first one. It's his early stuff. Eventually, I'll probably invest in some of his later stuff, but let's open this one up and kind of take a look at, Crumb from the beginning. I think, honestly, when I want to feel the most inspired, I look at artists from when they were, like, in their early days. Before they were this amazing, mind-blowingly phenomenal artist. Don't get me wrong, this book has a lot of great stuff in it, but it's very interesting to kind of see the growth of somebody like Robert Crumb, who ended up just being a master, absolute master. So I'm going to take this dust jacket off, which is pretty cool. It's like a composition notebook, which is an interesting choice because every composition notebook I've ever seen has lines on it, but thankfully there are no lines on this other than obviously his drawings. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick, just kind of, just flip through of this. I'm like looking at the screen while also trying to look down at the same time, if possible. So in his early stuff, there's a lot of contour lines, a lot of contour ink, pen and ink drawings. I'm not sure. I imagine there's probably, a like a structure to it, a pencil structure to it, but man, not a lot of detail at this point. And it seems like he was kind of just trying to find his way at this point. But it's inspiring because what would end up, what he would end up doing later on. He has this very, I would say probably very loose-like style. But there had to definitely have been pencil drawings and structure below it. But then again, I could be wrong. He could have just picked up a pen and said, let's draw this. Very Heinrich Clay-like. Very interesting perspective. Kind of looking in, the vanishing point there. This is kind of, what do you call it? Proto-Crumb, before he became the Crumb that we know. But you can definitely see Crumb in there for sure, obviously. What he would end up being later on. I love this drawing. It feels like he wasn't very confident at this point, but he very well could have been. I'm not certain, but it looks, like he's a learning artist at this point. Like there's some things he just doesn't understand, but yet still does it absolutely phenomenally. Very interesting, kind of like a towel, you know? Like her stomach is kind of a towel, and the bottom is like this very interesting choice of movement. Yeah, some of it looks flat, and some of it looks very, you know, structured. So it's very interesting to kind of see his early stuff, see his early sketchbook work. I will buy the later stuff eventually at some point and kind of see how much he's grown over the years, or how much he had grown over the years. I mean, he draws amazing cars. And if you notice, you know, later on in Crumb's work, you know, there's a lot of lines in his work, but they're just very calculated in where he places them. You know, sometimes when I finish my drawings, you know, and I'm still trying to like figure out how to ink really well, and I kind of look at some of my drawings, and they kind of feel like this. They kind of feel like they're sorry, I'm just trying to move this over. They kind of feel like they need more detail, you know. But yeah. 1939 Chevrolet, 1946 Chevrolet. Or just Chevy. Man, shoes are really difficult to draw. For some reason, I don't understand. Like, I think when I think about shoes, I think about like Van Gogh's drawing of, or paintings, drawings of shoes. And shoes are very difficult to draw. Like, unbelievably difficult to draw. And, man, Crumb could draw a great shoe. It's interesting. He's taking, like, inanimate objects and kind of adding this human thing to it. And then you get stuff like this where it's just kind of like a very... I mean, it's stylized still, but it's I don't know, it's not as weird as some of his stuff. I imagine he's probably trying to do perspective with just ink. But then again, I mean, I mean, you see this and it's something. Obviously, I'm not saying I draw like Robert Crumb, but it's far better than something that I can do. But there's just this feeling of unsureness. Like I'm not quite sure about my ability to draw at this point. But then again, it could very well just be that there's absolutely no structure there. Because I don't know Crumb's technique. I don't know if he just goes straight. I don't know enough about Crumb to kind of say, does he just go straight into ink? Is there any structure? Is there any underline drawing there? But yeah. It's a very interesting piece there. Kind of. Yeah. You can definitely tell he's figuring stuff out at this point. But that's the thing about Crumb is like, and that's what makes him interesting, is not everything needs to be exact. You know, as long as it's kind of giving you what you're supposed to do. I know that's a chair, right? I mean, the perspective is off, and it's not the greatest drawing of a chair, but I know that's a chair. I know that's a a tea kettle. I know that's looks like that could be an oven. Pots and pans, and it all works. It all reads what it's supposed to. I mean, if you look at something like this and you go, man, I could probably do that, you're in the right direction. You're going in the right direction. Absolutely love it. And I mean, I don't know if Crumb is really known for kind of like this environmental stuff. I think he's more known for stuff like this, like actual figure drawings, but still, man, it looks great. Love it. I feel like if you're doing the perspective and the line is there, I feel like it's supposed to be going down a little bit more, but I could be wrong. Because your eye level is about there. Yeah, I feel like it should be going down a little bit more, but it's kind of just going straight. I could be wrong. Maybe, but it also could be just that the vanishing point is further out. As you can see, I'm still trying to learn perspective. So, I mean, I imagine Robert Crumb would know far better about it than I would. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, just amazing stuff. If my sketchbook looked like this, I would not be upset. Let me tell you that. I just love his use of lines, just amazing. He definitely uses like things like lines and cross hatching to kind of express like things in the 3D space. But it's so interesting to see drawings like this where there's not a lot of it going on, you know. Because I think he's just trying to figure it out at this point. I think he's trying to figure out lighting, and he definitely I don't think has a brush at this point. I think he's using pen or dip pen. But you can definitely tell that ink, he loved to sling ink for sure. But then again, that has to be brush. That absolutely has to be brush there. So I'm sure he had brush on him. But I think he preferred to use pen more so than anything. Then again, Crumb seems like the type of guy who would use pen and just, he just seems like the type. I'm sure he was probably using brush at this point. There's something about drawings like this, when you look at them, you go, man, I feel like there's just like something missing. It just feels like it's too empty, and I have that problem when I go into ink and it just feels like it's empty, and you're like, oh man, I need to add more shadow. I need to. But Crumb, man, he just takes those lines and he just adds a few lines, and you go, okay, there you go. That drawing has life now. I love that. I mean, just man, and he's not drawing these perfect drawings. He's doing. You can definitely tell he's still learning at this point, as I've said like 50 times in the video. But I like to see the growth of an artist, and I've flipped through this like maybe once or twice, and from what I can remember, you see this huge improvement in like a three. Was it 64 to 68? So you see this huge improvement within 4 years. I mean, look at that. You can still tell that kind of that perspective is a little off, and I don't even know if he's using perspective at this point. Man, look at that. Great drawing. He draws great faces, for sure. I love it. Not every line in the tile or brick. It's probably tile. Not every line in the tile is perfect, but you learn these things in perspective. You can get that perfect, but Crumb's just like, I don't really need to get it perfect. I just need to express to you that this is a toilet, and then this is tile, and he gets it. He gets it across perfectly. And that's all drawing is you just trying to say, okay, here's the thing, and if you can see it, then you're good. You're on your way. I think this is the first color piece in the entire book so far. And, man, it's probably watercolor, if I had to guess. I just love looking at art like this because it really just kind of makes me not feel. I mean, obviously, I don't think I could draw anything like that right now, not even close. But it makes you feel a lot better. Makes you feel like, okay, this is very doable. I'm assuming that Crumb had to have been a fan of clay. I mean, there's no way he wasn't. It's so difficult to draw a foot. And man, he's drawing perfect foot there. I'm assuming probably, if I had to guess, I'm assuming that Warhol was a thing at this point. So he probably was going, okay, pop art is kind of popular. Let me try to kind of do it better than Warhol even could imagine doing it. And you think, and like this guy's out at the same time, roughly around the same time, maybe even a little bit before Warhol, and you're going, he's putting way better shit out than Andy Warhol could even ever imagine. As you can tell, I'm not the biggest Warhol fan. I don't even consider him an artist. I consider him a tracer. And yeah, I think he's kind of just drawing. I mean, he's probably, but then again, I mean, you're drawing a lot of this shit when you're learning to draw. You're drawing a lot of these, simple things because you have to draw like, you know, for every face and figure you want to draw, you're probably gonna have to draw like 100 of these, because it's just like you have to understand shape and you have to understand how shape kind of connects with one another to get you something like that. Because all this really is, it's just like you're gonna use all these skills that you learned from drawing this bottle, and when you're drawing a figure, but it's gonna be a little bit more complex. Great drawing there, love that. Yeah, I mean, I think he was doing a little bit of pop art stuff at this point. But again, I don't even know if he had the intention of even showing anybody this. He's doing Heinz, you know, instead of Campbell's. And it looks much better because you can actually see the top. You can see that it has, fucking dimension. Unlike our buddy Warhol, from what I can remember. But then again, it's not very memorable. Great piece in the middle. Kind of hate the fact that it's cut off there. But absolutely great piece. I mean, if you don't love Robert Crumb, there is absolutely something wrong with you. And you go, man, some of this stuff's kind of boring. It's just kind of like women and, and like, stupid like buildings and, and you go, no, it's actually some of the fucking hardest shit you can draw. Drawing a woman, man, it's difficult because there's so many curves going on, and drawing faces like that and kind of, I mean, I'm assuming that there's just like, well, there's just so much three-dimensional shapes going on there, and he's just got it down. I mean, it doesn't look flat at all. And just because it may not be like superheroes and stuff like that or interesting scenes, it still looks great. And he's drawing some really difficult shit here. I mean, that's an amazing drawing. I think that's the best one I've seen so far. But you can tell, man, he's really growing at this point. I mean, even his cars look better than they did previously. And to be able to draw that wheel that way, he's using perspective because it doesn't look flat. It doesn't look like flat. It looks like it's going to, a vanishing point. That's probably somewhere over there. I mean, how much was he drawing at this point? I imagine he probably was drawing like an actual cartoonist. I mean, he wasn't drawing for an hour a day, I would assume. So we see a little bit of comics work here, because he did do comics. There's that Life cereal again. Great car. That looks a little bit more like Robert Crumb that we know. Very interesting proportions. But I mean, you got to draw a lot of, you got to draw a lot of drawings like this to kind of get your style like that. But that, well, that previous picture I showed you, that doesn't look bad. I can tell you that. But anyways, yeah. Gotta bring this light down. Oop. Try not to get it in the camera. Weird perspective going on there. Probably just trying something, saying I want to draw a car that way. You can tell perspective was not his strong suit at this point. But then again, man, he draws these amazing, amazing cars. It's a lot of detail going on there. And if he's drawing that completely with ink and not doing any structure, which I'm assuming he's probably doing structure, but then again, I mean, that kind of looks a little off, so maybe he's not doing structure. Is he just doing continuous? He's not lifting the pen? I'm not certain what he's doing exactly. And that's what makes his artwork so interesting. I imagine if you can draw that without structure. Yeah. So we're in July 65. We finally have a date. So this is probably a year later, roughly. Great fucking drawing. Absolutely amazing. A little bit more like what the Robert Crumb that we know. It's getting there. His women are very, they have very wide hips. And I don't know, man. I mean, at this point, I don't know if he could really draw breasts correctly. But then again, I mean, I'm not, I'm not Robert Crumb good, so I can't. But that's not how I would draw breasts. But that's how he draws breasts for a very long time. But I mean, that's his style. That's a great, great fucking drawing right there. I mean, he has that. It's very angular, so you kind of get this woman who's clearly looks like she's like ragged and a prostitute. Great character. I mean, that's great cartooning right there. A couple more comics here. Probably early versions of Fritz the Cat. Great drawing. Yeah. So I mean, these look more. These look more on point to like an actual drawing. So you can like an actual car drawing. So there's not any perspective going here. It's a flat shape, so they look a little bit better. And then when you start moving it, moving the car. Sorry if my fingers are covering it. When you start moving the car, oh, well, you got to get that perspective down. That's something, by the way, that it took me forever to understand when I started drawing. I was like, what do I do? Like, how do I move this? I'd be like, how do I make a circle look like it's turning? And you go, oh, yeah, you just, kind of figure out perspective, draw it. The way I do is I draw it within a cube, and then I put, cross contour lines around it. Such a difficult thing to understand when you're starting to draw, because you're just like, how the fuck do I do this? Great drawing. Again, very angular face, kind of like this older woman. You can see more bone. Man, look at that. What an amazing drawing. One of those guys I would have actually liked to have seen him kind of do like sci-fi or something. I think it would have been interesting. See him kind of do like a Mobius-like art. Oh, look how big that head is, but I think it's the hair moving back. It just looks way off. Very interesting drawing. I don't know if this was just something that he did or something he actually got paid for to kind of do an ad. Not sure. And it's awesome because you kind of can look at his work and you kind of go through like a time machine. This is going to be a very long video, by the way, just an FYI. But I mean, you can't go through Crumb in 10 minutes. It's just impossible to go through Crumb in 10 minutes, especially a book of this size. So I know I should probably skip pages, and I think you should go out and buy this book 100%. I probably should skip pages, but I love this artwork. Sells the book. Like, you should go out and buy this book 100%. Man, look at that. Look at the lines on the face. I don't know if before he was kind of trying to do, drawings without a lot of line in the face, but there's a lot of detail going on here. And he's drawing these interesting, cars or vans or buses or whatever they are. It looks like a bus. Man. Drawing some tanks here. Awesome drawings of tanks. He loved drawing cars. And tanks and any kind of vehicle. Very interesting drawing. Starting to see the lines. The contour lines. Cross contour lines. Look at that. Look at the detail on a lot of these things and a lot of the lines going in there. I think he's starting to feel more confident at this point about his lines. Man, do you know how many times I've drawn something like this? And you go, wow, it seems really simple. Man, it is difficult to get that ellipse perfectly. And even that's not perfectly done, but it looks good. I mean, it's a cup and a spoon and a little plate on top of it. It works. Or on top of it. It's on top of a whatever. You know what I mean? This page, I mean, this book is fucking ginormous. It's like a Bible. It's like a tome. Got more comics work. Probably early comics work, I imagine. I don't know what year. I don't know what year Crumb was born, but I don't know how old he was at this point. I'm assuming he was quite young, but Drew, I mean, he had great understanding of comics and storytelling. Just really, really awesome stuff. Gonna kind of flip through this a little bit quicker if possible. That chick's face looks a little manly. I think he needed to work a little bit on that face, but again, I'm critiquing Robert Crumb. Should not be doing that. It's so difficult because when you're a learning artist, you can see when people are fucking up. And you go, man, should I be really talking about how Michelangelo's faces didn't look good or didn't look perfect in this one drawing that he did, and it'll look slightly off? And I'm just sitting there going, have I become an arrogant prick that I think that I'm a better artist? That's not it. You have to look at the imperfections, I feel like, because it makes you a better artist. And you go, okay, I know Robert Crumb can draw much better than that, and I know that Robert Crumb could have spent probably another fucking, hour or two on that face. But it doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. It just doesn't look to his level. So it's weird when you see an artist and you go, man, you can draw really great. But maybe you just weren't feeling it at that point. You kind of wanted to say, I'm done for the day. Let me finish this face and fuck off. Or maybe you just didn't feel like putting as much into that face at that point. That's a great face. I hate having to draw random things around, because it's just not interesting. You go, that's not an interesting thing to draw. But you have to. You have to draw shit like that. Because it gets you to understand, okay, there's bits and pieces, and they, you want to make it feel 3D. You want to draw shit like this. Shit like that. Man. I mean, this is what I haven't seen a year in quite a long time. I wish I had a year. I wish every picture kind of I wish every drawing. I wish there was like a year to tell you, okay, this is like 2 months after that or whatever. Yeah, look at that. That looks amazing. You can definitely tell he spent a lot of time on that. Water, like drawing those rings and stuff. Getting that perfectly. Very difficult to do. Actually, it looks like it starts to flatten out there. Very interesting. I mean, how can you look at this artwork and not go, holy shit? I probably have already said that, but yeah, drawing weird breasts again. I don't know. I just feel, to me, that doesn't feel like what breasts should be drawn like, but that's Crumb style. Let me tell you something. I guarantee you that guy could probably draw breasts, and I'm sorry that I'm focusing on the breasts, but Crumb was very ahead of his time. That's for sure. That's the cover piece. So he's starting to add a few more lines to his work. He's feeling more confident. I really would have loved to have seen what his process was. What a weird fucking what a weird drawing there. Bizarre. I think this is gonna be my longest video yet. I want to get the other Crumb books because Taschen, man, they make the best. I think the best art books. I think these were originally released in like Germany or something, and then Taschen picked it up and then printed it here in America. So here's the thing about Robert Crumb. I'm a huge fan of Robert Crumb, but I never want to draw like Robert Crumb, and the reason why is because Robert Crumb has such a distinct style that if you look at his work and you try to practice it and you go, okay, let me look at Robert Crumb, you're gonna end up being a clone of Robert Crumb. It's kind of like Jack Kirby. I love Jack Kirby to death, but I never want to draw like Jack Kirby, and the reason why is because the same reason. He has a very distinct style, and you don't want people to say, man, you're a Kirby ripoff, you're a Robert Crumb ripoff. So I don't use Robert Crumb's work as a way to go, man, I want to draw like that. I look at Robert Crumb's work to kind of go, this is kind of some interesting things that he does, and he's great at storytelling, even from like a single drawing. There's a lot of story in his work. So the one thing I would pick up from somebody like Robert Crumb and Jack Kirby is storytelling, because that's one of the more difficult things to do. And I mean, he's definitely thinking out composition sometimes, like obviously in drawings like this, I don't think he's really paying attention to composition, but he is definitely a master of composition. And I mean, he's a master drawer, master figure drawer, and great with a pen. Probably one of the best. I mean, other than Heinrich Clay, to my knowledge, obviously, I don't know every artist out there, but I definitely think that it's funny because if you look at a guy like Durer, you know, Durer was one of the earliest guys, to my knowledge, who kind of made his work very, like a lot of lines like that. And that moved on to guys like Heinrich Clay, and then eventually it moved on to guys like Robert Crumb. So I do have a Durer book. Eventually I am gonna go through Durer. I don't think I've gone through Durer yet. I don't remember what videos I made. I know I went through Heinrich Clay, but I just love it, man. He just draws like these very angular, just very like grotesque faces. It's funny because he can draw a beautiful woman and he can draw a really ugly woman, which is great. And same thing with men. He can draw, you know, very ugly men. That's probably what Crumb thought he looked like. I love that. It's so simplistic, but yet it's such a great drawing. That's a weird one. So much detail in the face, and then it gets. I'm not really into that part. I'm done with that drawing. And you can even tell, like, it feels like the ears are off. You know, he's still. But it works. I feel like the ear should be. Maybe it's on. Back of the head, the skull is weird though. Some weird stuff there. That's an interesting one. I really like that one. Love that. It's him with a sex doll, it looks like. That seems like something Crumb would draw. Crumb really liked to draw, you know, he liked the subject of sex when it came to his drawings, for sure. Man, this book, I forgot how fucking big this book is. Holy shit. I should probably skip a few pages. This video is going to go on forever. I'm just kind of flipping through and kind of talking about stuff when I see it. It's very difficult to kind of do this by yourself because you're just like, I don't know what to say. I guess I'm just going to look at the art, you know. But you can definitely see that improvement for sure from the beginning of the book. The beginning of the book, you kind of saw this artist who was not sure of himself at all. And then now it seems like he's kind of in his element and kind of feels like, okay, I can do this. And he had probably been drawing for quite some time before that. But I mean, in 4 years, I mean, look at that. I mean, look at all that detail on the faces. Absolutely amazing work. What a absolute master. And if you're inspired by Crumb and you want to draw like Crumb, more power to you. I think you absolutely should. But he has just such a distinct style. Excuse me. Yeah. More comic stuff. Not a lot of detail going on there. Probably early comics work. That's an interesting piece. That's definitely brush. I can tell that. And I like to see his brush stuff just as much as his pen stuff. Keep on trucking. I don't know if that was an early thing or a later thing. See more comic stuff. Just kind of flipping through this. Coming up on 40 minutes. Love that. Great drawing. Man, the detail. Just amazing. You can definitely tell he loved it. All right, so we have July 67. So this is 2 years since the last time we had a date. I'm sure I missed a bunch of dates before that. But, I mean, so we're talking... Yeah, I mean, this is a guy totally in his element at this point. Probably working professionally, I would say. He may have been working professionally from the beginning. I'm not sure. But more comics work. Very human-like thing with a human-like drawing. With a very non-human-like drawing. Man, look at that. It's great. Absolutely great stuff. I don't know if he was doing this stuff for just kind of learning or if he really was going to kind of transfer this over to something real. I'm assuming because it's a sketchbook, it's probably him learning. Man, but if you're learning and your stuff looks like this, holy shit. I don't think you need to learn much more. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah. Man. Look at that. Great. And I feel like his anatomy started to get a lot better. And again, he may have already known the anatomy perfectly, but I don't know. So we're coming down to the wire here. But, yeah. Feels like he's starting to get perspective down a little bit better at this point. And it's funny because you'll wander for maybe months kind of in the wrong direction. and then you'll finally go, oh, okay, shit, my a light bulb went off. But the thing is that you know, you kind of have to go in that wrong direction to kind of feel more confident with your with drawing, with your tools. I mean, do you know how long it took me to get confident with a pencil? God, probably took me 2 years to get confident with a pencil. Ink is another. Ink, not confident with ink at all. I love this. This is great. Very weird kind of piece. And more, I mean, he's got some weird shit, You can tell I have not opened this in a very long time because you can hear the cracking of the spine. With how big this book is, I may have not even gotten to this point. What an interesting thing, just very simplistic. I mean, that's the kind of shit you'll do. Just kind of be like, oh, I just want to understand comics. Okay, I'm going to draw this simple thing. And it works. Man. There we go. That is Robert Crumb portrait there. It's funny. It was printed in Italy. I think Taschen's out of Italy. And the funny thing is I believe these books are still in print, and it was printed in 2016, so 6 years ago, roughly. And you can they're still readily available. So at least to my knowledge. But yeah, that's Robert Crumb. I don't know what else can be said about him other than he's an absolute master. And this is the first volume in his sketchbook series by Taschen. And I would say absolutely pick it up. It's an awesome book. It's definitely one of those books that, when you look at it and you're kind of starting as an artist, or even if you've been drawing or whatever for 20 years, it kind of still will make you feel like, I can get better at some point. And boy, did Robert Crumb get a lot better. And I mean, if you're drawing stuff, like this, you're in the absolute right direction. I mean, you could work as a professional, and I mean, obviously, it's fucking Robert Crumb, but yeah, I mean, it's just nice to kind of look at artists from their beginning, or as early as you can find their work, and kind of look back at it and go, okay, yeah, everybody starts somewhere. So that's Robert Crumb.